Let's talk about Sanogo for a second.
Okay, let's. Bulls fans love them some Sanogo, Will. What's your thoughts? Because I asked this guy right here, 4-time NBA champion center, by the way. Hey, Perdue, what do you think about Adama Sanogo? Because Bulls fans, lots of them last season, hanging out, watching our show, talking Bulls with us, were freaking out about the lack of Sanogo minutes. And I was like, I'm sorry, but a lack of Sanogo minutes is not what ails this team right now. So what's your read on him?
I love talking to the kid because he's just a sponge.
Yeah.
He really wants to get better. But I think what you have seen is that he's not flashy by any means, but he's crafty. He's really a smart player who learns on the go and figures out how to score.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is to me, right, is you saw the night he actually took 2 threes and made one of them.
Bonkers.
It's a very
Sanogo and Kenny Lofton hit threes tonight.
Yep. It's honest. I mean, it's a little awkward. I don't want to say he lacks athleticism. He's just not an athlete per se.
Yeah.
Okay. He actually, to me, is a basketball player. There's a lot of people in the league that are athletes that play the game of basketball.
Right.
That aren't necessarily basketball players, but they're still very good at it because of how athletic they are.
Some might throw the name Zach LaVine into that category.
But I think Sanogo has gotten to where he is because he's a basketball player, but I also think he's limited. I'm not saying he can't play on this team, but he qualifies as one of those guys that is – it's kind of like, if you want to talk about numbers, if he plays more than a certain number, his plus minus is this. If he plays less than a certain number, his plus minus is this. It's very specialized when he can and can't play.
Yeah.
And I think that – in the preseason, he can put up good numbers, but I just don't think that he's a guy. Now he can continue to, you know who he reminds me of?
Who's that?
And this guy's, a guy that's won championships, but it's just how he plays, not necessarily who he is, but how he plays. Kevin McHale.
Oh, okay.
The up and under.
Not an athlete.
The up and under, the finger roll, just
basketball player.
Exactly.
Not athlete. Yeah.
I don't think again, don't get me wrong, he's not Kevin McHale. I'm just talking like how he approaches the game.
Right.
Like when I work with Mark Shanowski and do Windy City Bulls games, we'll watch a game.
Shout out.
And at the end of the game, he hadn't really done anything to jump out at you, but you notice he's got 16 and 10.
Yeah.
Now, that's in the G League.
Right.
I think in the regular season, he's going to be, he's going to hurt you defensively, and that's one of the biggest weaknesses of this team.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things. I don't think he can score enough offensively to make up for what he lacks on defense, right?
Yeah.
So there's an equation that you have to put in there.
I mean, like, to me, Bulls fans could look at tonight's box score and be like, well, my gosh, double-double Sanogo, 16 and 15. He was not off the bench, doing 16 and 15 in 10 minutes or 15 minutes. Like, he played 33 minutes tonight and gave him 16 and 15. He also, in most of the first quarter of that game, was having his lunch absolutely taken from him by Brook Lopez, an actual starting NBA center. Like, Bulls fans hate on Vooch for a lot of reasons, and one of them being like, hey, it's not your fault, but like, you're undersized because Vooch is what, 6'10", maybe 6'11", as a starting center.
Yep.
Sanogo's 6'9". And look, he has some strength and maybe some bully ball stuff in his game that Vooch does not have, but he's 6'9" and was trying to score over and stop from scoring Brook Lopez tonight. And anyone watching even kind of carefully saw how that went for Sanogo, because the answer was not well.
Well, Brook Lopez had 4 blocks. I think 3 of them might have been on Sanogo.
And again, like, you can be a player of Sanogo's frame and size and be an impactful, positive player in the G League. I do not know if that role exists for a player at his size and position and his specific skill set with the weaknesses attached to his game, like a legitimately competitive NBA level.
It's to be determined. But the one thing is, I know the kid wants to learn. I actually saw him at the Bulls event on Thursday, and I told him, I said, listen, you don't necessarily have to play to have a successful financial career.
Shout out Cristiano Felicio.
Oh, God, don't go there.
Speaking of
my point is,
Bulls centers,
he even understood where I was going. I wasn't trying to be negative. I was just saying, listen, man, you could possibly play 12 years in the league and play for 12 different teams.
Yeah.
But where else are you going to make this kind of money? Even if you play for 12 different teams and at times only have partial guarantees.
Yeah.
And that's where, if you work your ass off and you're great in the locker room and a guy that just constantly is uplifting his teammates, but also stays healthy, and even though you don't play, you're available.
Yep.
You bounce around the league. You find a way to stick, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, hey, whatever happened to Sanogo? Oh, look at that. He played 10 years, played for 8 different teams. He made $18 million, and, that was it.
Yeah.
But because of his work ethic and, his pedigree, champion.
Yeah.
That means a lot to coaches and scouts and, general managers. He can bounce around. There's a reason why the Bulls are keeping him here and attached to this team. I understand you got Jalen Smith, you got Vooch. There's really no place for him. But one of those two guys goes down. He's
tonight.
He's a good, 11th, 12th man.
I mean, it's a preseason game. They essentially, I think, just gave Zach and Vooch the nights off veteran rest. So that's why Vooch didn't play. Jalen Smith is dealing with a minor nagging injury preseason. Don't bother playing him because it's preseason. Why risk it? So, yes, Sanogo was called up into active duty tonight and played 33 minutes as a starter. And he did some solid things on the floor. I'm not trying to say I believe in nothing that Sanogo does. There are some things he clearly can do well. His role on this team, though, and it's interesting that you say, there's got to be a reason the Bulls are keeping him around. He's been around for what? This will be his 3rd year now?
Yep.
Bouncing between G League and occasionally getting called up. And that is why this roster battle I find fascinating, of guys who are on Exhibit 10s who were brought in for training camp and preseason roster. And then, obviously, owner Al Patim, who's on that 15th spot, non-fully guaranteed contract that they still have a few days to make a decision on. Sanogo, at the point in time, is, I think, firmly planted in one of those two-way spots, Will. And I think he's proved that he's worth that.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. Because
Yeah.
I know they love him with the Windy City Bulls, and they love having him there because of his attitude and his work ethic and just the positivity. I mean, he actually is thankful to be there.
Yeah.
We all silly like the mayor.